Black Panther: Wakanda Forever opened this weekend, and fans are lining up for the next chapter. The themes of race, power, colonialism, and feminism are all front and center as a new queen takes the throne, defending the kingdom from the outside world. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever has a new story to tell, this one in the wake of King T'Challa's death. And while original star Chadwick Boseman didn't live to make this sequel, his spirit is very much a part of it.
Our story very much embraces the grief that we were all feeling, and because T'Challa is gone in this story, the real question at the heart of this story is, how do you move on after tragedy, after loss? And that's what we needed.
He was our leader through that, through the phenomenon that the first film became. So really, it so feels like it's so grounded in him and rooted in the power of his spirit and his astounding leadership and generosity.
The film's director wore Boseman's necklace to this premiere.
You are literally wearing Chadwick Boseman close to your heart.
Yeah, I am. Now, I was able to get this made when we were starting filming on this one. And you just wanted to keep him close and as a reminder of what we were doing it for.
One co-star wore paint to the premiere with Chadwick's image on her back.
I feel great. I am wearing an outfit. It's just in paint. That's all.
Black Panther: Wakanda Forever will show our heroes fighting to protect their nation. And in Marvel style, there's always something new to explore.
I think you're just in for a great adventure, some excitement, some emotion, absolutely. We're going to get all of that thrilling, that larger-than-life Marvel, but it's so grounded.
Gratitude. That's the word for today. Extreme gratitude. When I look at this poster and when I remember the work that we've done on set to make this come alive, gratitude.
Black Panther and its Wakanda world are more than just a comic book storyline. It's become a cultural phenomenon and an example of a movement called Afrofuturism. Joining me now to talk about what that means is digital artist Dr. Natrice Gaskins. She's assistant director of the Lesley University STEAM Learning Lab, and Joel Christian Gill, also an artist, an associate professor at Boston University School of Visual Arts, and inaugural chair at the MFA in Visual Narrative. Hey, how are you both?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. So, Natrice, what is Afrofuturism?
I wouldn't say it's a movement. It's more like a production, creative expression. A lot of people is aesthetic. It pulls from fantasy, science fiction, magical realism, many science, nature. So it really pulls from many different disciplines and subject areas. But the whole point is to sort of imagine Black people or people of the African diaspora in the future, present, and past.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, you were just in a documentary that aired this past week on the Smithsonian Channel about Afrofuturism, right?
Yes, I was.
All right, Joel, how do you define Afrofuturism?
I define Afrofuturism as when Black people imagine themselves in a new place. And I think that encompasses a lot of the Black diaspora and the ways in which we sort of like look at how Black people have been cut out of a lot of things. And so with Afrofuturism, we are imagining ourselves in different places. And a good friend of mine, John Jennings, who's a good friend of Natrice's as well, is that John said that when Dr. King talked about the mountaintop, that was Afrofuturism, because he was defining a place in the future that didn't necessarily exist. And I think that that's what Afrofuturism is to me. It's a place in which Black people imagine new places and new ways in which to tell stories.
And this movie very nicely illustrates that. Wakanda Forever takes us deeper into this world that we're talking about, where for the first time in a movie, we see young Black tech geniuses as the smartest people on the planet. And I had a chance to sit down with Chadwick Boseman in 2018 to talk about the first movie and the cultural impact of the film. Have you understood what kind of cultural phenomena is being created around the country, around this movie, Black Panther?
I'm seeing it. I see, young people and old people dressed up in the Black Panther outfit. I've seen it on Hollywood Boulevard now, when you used to just see Spider-Man and Captain America and Batman and Superman.
and we miss Chadwick in this next film. Seeing black people as leaders, groundbreakers, super smart. How does that representation factor into the concept of Afrofuturism? Latrice?
So one of the things I always talk about is we engage with literature, we engage with the visual image, film and video. My point of view is engaging from physical computing, coding, programming, making things with your hands, arts and crafts, all these things and how they come together to sort of navigate the past, present, and the future.
And we talk about your work at Lesley College. Women are at the forefront of high tech in the movie, and of course you're illustrating in real life women as leaders in the high tech world.
Yeah, and Shuri is a great example for young people in terms of a young person who has decided to become sort of an inventor and innovator in her community. So she has a lab, she's a teenager, and she wasn't definitely in the first film, and you can see her prototyping, building the Black Panther habits that she prototypes and tests.
And she's smarter than everybody else.
Absolutely.
Joel, Afrofuturism has really become more visible in pop culture, but it's really not a new concept, is it?
No.
There's a lot of historical data examples that support it, including representations of Afrofuturism in music and art dating back to ancient Egypt.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a, I mean, I don't think it's only been defined for probably the last 30 years or so. But I think when you start to look back at a lot of things that were happening, whether it's, George Clinton and the Mothership, or Sun Ra, or Miles Davis, when you start looking at all of these ideas, you actually come to this conclusion that there is definitely a pattern. It's kind of like how we seek pattern recognition. If you look at it, you can see where Black people are imagining a place in which we are designed outside of the box that this society has put us in. And I think that that's what Afrofuturism, in a lot of ways, you can see it, from, the only science fiction story that W.E.B. Du Bois wrote, Megascope, to, Octavia Butler and all of her work, or Samuel Delaney, or, Latrice Gaskin. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like there's
yes.
all of these people who
Why does it matter? Why does Afrofuturism matter?
I think it matters because we are telling, a lot of my work is about telling stories. And I think that putting Black people in places in which we don't necessarily, like the thing about Wakanda, what makes Wakanda amazing is Black is the default, right? The scientists are Black. The teachers are Black. The king is Black. The queen is Black. The janitor is Black. The villain is Black. Like Black is the default. And there's not many places in this society where we can be the default and not have to explain or justify our existence in a space.
Latrice, you've created some other examples of Afrofuturism. Talk about some of the dynamic works of art that we're looking at on screen.
Yeah, I'm collaborating with artificial intelligence. I've been doing that since 2017. And what's great is that you can work with the algorithms to incorporate nuances from, that represent Blackness. And that's what I've been doing with my work, is really trying to explore that through speculative fiction, but also through Black literature, something that's called Shine, or speculative reflection, which is a technology that enhances dark skin. Playing around with that, and as well as just having a good time experimenting with AI.
These images are just beautiful. Tell me more about the development and the inspiration put into them.
So right now there's a program called Midjourney, and it's very popular. The New York Times has covered it in terms of artists starting to use AI in their work. It's a text-based, text prompt-based technology, so you have to write words, and then the AI interprets those words. And so it's really important to realize that you can have some impact on how those images are generated. And so I've been really experimenting with that.
Well, congratulations. The works are beautiful. The National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. has just announced a new exhibition exploring stories and futures of Black liberation. I know, Latrice, you had something else at the Smithsonian that's not in this exhibit, but we'll look for your piece there as well. Afrofuturism, A History of Black Futures. That exhibit opens next March. Latrice Gaskins and Joel Christian Gill, thank you both for